Welcome to Grab a Load. I'm Anthony, and AMD has finally finished up the lineup of their 7000 series graphics card lineup with a 7800 XT and the 7700 XT. Now, I'll let you look up the specs. They're based upon the same die, a little bit different in their, what are the CUs or work group, however they're calling it these days. Disabled between the two, excuse me there. But they, overall, it's a $500 and a $450 card. So how these prices line up with something so close and these reviews are out is going to be really, the choice of what you want to do is going to be really yours of how you want to spend your money. Do you want brand new? Do you want current gen? Or are you willing to go, or last gen, or are you willing to go on the used market? And that will really determine kind of, I think, how you want to proceed in this, because you look at it, the 4070 is around $600 and the 7800 XT it's got some more RAM, but you're probably looking at your gaming performance on that. And you have the 4070 looks to be, and the 7800 XT kind of trades blows a little bit between those two cards. So if you're looking at, the 4070, which, is $600 versus $500, do you want to spend that extra $100 for a card that are very close to equivalent, depending upon the resolution that you're gaming at? That's going to be something you're down. Now, I'd watch reviews on if you play specific games, so you kind of can see that, see your specific game, or if you play multiples of which one that it's going to be best performing as. But that's kind of where I'm sitting right now, is that it doesn't make much sense for that little lineup when they're so close and you're $100 difference. Now, there's overclock models that close that price, etc. So that's something that you'll have to kind of look into. But my thoughts are, if you're looking at new and those are the two, well, now you got to also consider one other new card, and that's last generation's 6800 XT. And that is so close in performance as well. And if that is to be had, and I was just pulling up some prices on Newegg, but the 6800 XT here, let's do a quick search. That's $499 right now here. I wouldn't be surprised if these cards start to drift a little bit into the $450 range, if not lower. Yeah, they actually have some in there, down in the 470 range on Newegg right now. Who knows how long they'll stay there? But if that, then you got the used market as well, and I know used market's even pushing a little bit lower than that. Is that something to consider? Now, I've bought a used card here. I got a 6800 6700 XT, my bad, 6700 XT. I bought for the mid 200s, and this was a used card. It's performed very well since I bought it, and for me, that kind of, maybe yes, of course, I'd like a better performing card, but was this something to have me make the jump? I'm actually considering used again, because the price to value ratio just seems to be a little bit better in that arena right now. I personally think that the 7800 should have been called, the 7800 XT should have been called the 7800, because the performance wise is just too close for a 7800 XT to replace the 6800 XT. I think that was a mistake on AMD's marketing. I think that would have made a lot more sense to have the 7700 XT and the 7800 if you want to do it that way. I think AMD they only really have 5 cards, so they were kind of messing with things. If they would have all slotted these correctly, 7800 XT, maybe a 7800 XTX instead of the 79 or something like that, they would have did a much better job. I think there's a little bit of a wiggle room there, a lot of wiggle room, that they should have did a better job in marketing, but it's marketing. So you have that, and then the other side of it too is you go over to the 7700, and just a quick little rundown there. The difference between that's what, 20 to 30% between 7700 XT between the 7800 XT. So take that, and then you have the 3080, which is out there on the used market that you can go get. But the 7700 is a jump above the 6700 XT, so that was good that AMD got that jump for the kind of the same 7 tier, I guess, 70 tier, 700 tier, however you want to say it, between NVIDIA and AMD, and it does seem to beat the 6800 by enough, except for in 4K. You know, like 4K and 1440p, I think, are a little bit closer, but between those, but they did a good job of kind of getting it up to that, 6800 level of performance. So that's just something to keep in mind here. Last generation, there was a little bit more segmentation. This generation, you have jumps in between your cards, right? You got 5 cars to choose from, unless you include the GRE model. So the 4060 Ti, yeah, just ignore that card even exists. So, I think that if you're up in this price range, you're going to say there's the 6800, you got the 68, the 7700, and then you have the 6800 XT, the 7800 XT, and you have and if you want to spend a little bit more, the 4070. I know that they did drop, NVIDIA kind of unofficially trying to drop prices, kind of getting around, but AMD's got a price position standpoint here that is really hard to ignore. Naming aside, put it in a vacuum of, new cards, they did a good job. It's just, would I go out of my way to buy one of these cards, these new cards, over some of the used stuff on the market right now, or even last generation? I can't really justify that right now, considering I do think that some of the last gen is going to have to come down in price based upon the reviews of performance that are out there in the 7800 XT versus the 6800 XT. So that's kind of where I'm sitting. Power, is a little bit higher than what I anticipated it being. They were always talking about efficiency in this generation. Seems to go a little bit outside of that, but are you concerned about efficiency on your graphics cards? AMD says no, gamer desktop users aren't as concerned about that. I, right now I'm not as concerned about that, but that's something that I want to mention. I guess over the years I've seen people be more concerned about it than what maybe I would be, but if power and electricity costs keep going up, it could be a bigger factor. Who knows? But in my point of view, if you're looking at a new system and you want the card, you want the new features, the RDNA 3 features that they released, these are good options for you, especially if you're looking in that $500 range, $450 range. If you can spend the extra $50 and you want that extra performance, that is I think, a good deal. Look at the last gen cards. Look at, and this is if you don't want to look at, used or last gen, but otherwise I would highly encourage people to consider. Now, let's say this, the RX 7700 XT drops a little bit in price, goes to that 420 range, 430 range. I think that you have a little bit different, but I do think that you're gonna have to push down your old stock, because you got to clear out that old stock at some point. And once the old stock clears up, maybe we have another conversation. Maybe, but I'm just putting this all out there. I think there's, the 70. So you got a big jump up in the 7700 over the 7600, right? And the AMD just doesn't have that. You have the 7800 at 500, then 450, and the 76, which was, what was the 7600? What was the price of that? Of course, it didn't just show up. Newegg has a bad searching feature. Or they're just not searching it right. But this is, it seems like they're missing in some areas, right? And that's kind of confusing to me of why they're missing. And yeah, because it's 270. So then, from 270 to 450, that's a pretty big jump. If you would have been in there at like 370, and then your 500, and then you have your 7900 XT, which is what, around 7 something right now, 750 or so, and then you have that 1,000. I think you have a little bit better breakup. Having it so close, it really kind of confusing, but it seems like AMD is really trying to clear out that old stock, and until they do, there's not much we can do. But I mean, they're not horribly priced cards, overall. And as much as I want, and maybe there's a different time I talk about, value of them, of where I would like to see cards. But, I don't know if that's ever coming back there. So, but, to my point of view, is this something I would upgrade to if I was building new? If I'm building new, or want a new card, I'm probably going with the 6800 XT if I'm looking in that price range right now. I think the 6800 XT is going to come down in price. Um, and if that's the case, there's $499 now, but let's say the 6800 XT, gets down into the, 450 range. Yeah, 469 for an open box, 470. I think that's a great option and something we should really consider. They're yeah, if they're saying they're so close in performance, the 7700 a little bit easier, but for $50 more, you're jumping up. The 4060 is just yeah. But then so there's a lot just to think about. But to me, right, I'm looking used. You have, because you can get the even last gen 3080s, and 3080s, 10 gig, that's, getting pretty close to the 7800. 3090, I don't know where that's going to sit at, but you never know if that starts creeping down in price in this. That would make adjustments too. Used market, you know, I'm glad that AMD finally filled out their market, finally getting something out there. Pricing wise, I think they did a really good job. At least they didn't increase the price for the same performance as what the last gen was. They kind of kept it MSRP to MSRP is $150 lower. So at least they did that. But this isn't a medal for or a ribbon for just doing slightly better than the last gen after prices have steadily increased. And price per dollar, it was seeming like price per dollar was not going down, it was just staying the same, and they were just increasing performance and increasing the price for that performance. So you got that to go with it. I'm just a little, it wasn't as exciting as I thought it would be. I think that's the name of it, mostly for the 7800 XT versus the 6800 XT, right? You want that jump, you want that, you know, 20%, 30% over the last generation in that same naming tier, and that really didn't happen, which was unfortunate. You like to even see 50%, but it's unfortunate. The 7700, I think for the name got it well, but price to performance, you got to look at the price per performance on all these cards. AMD's features now are starting to match NVIDIA's features. They're not all there yet. Ray tracing is a little bit slower. I want to mention that a little bit. I don't play many games on ray tracing, so I don't always remember it, but that's something to always keep in mind, is that ray tracing is a little bit better. Still, NVIDIA is got way better ray tracing on their cards, but that's kind of where we sit. You got my confusingness of what I think about these, but let me know what you think in the comments below, what your thoughts are in here. Where do you think AMD stacked up? Do you think there's still value in the last gen market, and do you think that used cars are maybe the way to go as well? With that, thank you so much for supporting Gravelord and helping this channel to grow. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, God bless, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.